Coming off of the Civil War that ended the year prior, the city of Memphis, Tennessee experienced racial tension at its highest, which resulted into 3 nights of terror for Black Memphians. Many Black Memphians lived in dense neighborhoods on the city's southern edge. They lived in makeshift homes that stood along churches and schools, which were built from nothing but determination and scrap timber. Among them were Black Union soldiers, men who had fought for their liberty and now wore the uniforms of the U.S. Army with pride. This reality for many white Memphians was something that they just didn't want to accept, mainly because these Black soldiers coming from the Civil War, and they carried a sense of dignity, which many white Memphians, especially Irish immigrants, ex-Confederates, and police, felt like this was intolerable. Racial resentment festered under the surface by economic instability, competition for jobs, and the perceived humiliation of military defeat. The sight of armed Black men in uniform was a daily reminder of their world being turned upside down from the old order of things. The spark came on May 1st, 1866, when a confrontation between Black Union soldiers and white police officers escalated into violence. What began as a street dispute quickly devolved into something more sinister. Over the next 3 days, the city plunged into an eruption of racial terror unlike anything Memphis had seen before. White mobs made up of police officers, Irish laborers, former Confederate soldiers, and ordinary citizens descended on Black neighborhoods like a bee swarm. They were armed with torches, pistols, clubs. They set fires to homes, schools, and churches built by the newly freed enslaved Black men from their beds, beat and shot them in the streets. For blank, children were left to cry beside bodies that would never rise again. Sarah had barely escaped when the mob reached her block. She grabbed a small boy named Isaiah, one of her students, and fled to her crawl space, clutching him tight as angry boots stumped above their head. She watched through cracks in the floorboards as her schoolhouse burned across the yard. Black millionaire and businessman Robert Church was targeted specifically because of his success and status. A white mob stormed his barbershop and shot him in the head, believing that they had killed him. Remarkably, he survived the attack. Though seriously wounded, he recovered. By the time the violence ended on May 3rd, the destruction was staggering. 46 Black people were dead, most of them men, some of them veterans of the Union Army. More than 90 homes have been destroyed. 12 schools and 4 churches, all Black owned or operated, were reduced to ash. 5 women reported being blanked. Suspect the true number was higher. Not a single white person was killed during the violence. So that tells you who the perpetrators were. The massacre was not random, not spontaneous. It was a deliberate and coordinated campaign of racial violence. Local officials not only failed to protect black citizens, they often participated in the brutality. White policemen were seen attacking black soldiers. Firemen refused to extinguish fires set in black neighborhoods. No one was held accountable. In the aftermath, the Freedmen's Bureau, the federal agency tasked with assisting formerly enslaved people, launched an investigation. Captain James S. Albert, a Bureau officer, led the inquiry and filed a detailed report that documented the extent of the violence. His findings were grim. Quote, "The disorder which broke out here was not an accident, nor an uncontrollable riot. It was a massacre systemically carried out with the aim of reasserting white control through fear and bloodshed." End quote. The report concluded that the Memphis police, far from maintaining order, had either incited the violence or stood by as it unfolded. Albert's investigation revealed that the massacre was rooted not in sudden rage, but in long-standing white resentment towards black autonomy, military service, and federal protection. The report was presented to Congress, which was already embroiled in debate over the future of Reconstruction. The Memphis massacre served as horrifying proof that Southern states could not be trusted to safeguard the rights and lives of black citizens. Later that same year, in Pulaski, Tennessee, a secretive organization of former Confederate soldiers and sympathizers formed. They called themselves the Ku Klux Klan, and initially they were described as a fraternal group. The Klan quickly evolved into a paramilitary terrorist organization bent on restoring white dominance in the South. It also was one of the first massacres that began after Reconstruction, and after the Memphis massacre of 1866, you had others that followed, but this Memphis one was the first. Due to the Civil War, due to slaves being freed, black slaves being freed, so it was just a powder keg that was exploding all over the nation. So I would like to talk about some of the other ones that happened. There was a lot that happened after Reconstruction, and I don't think that it's talked about enough. When I was talking about the massacre, there was a story in there that I said about a woman named Sarah who was a teacher. She had a journal. Her name was Sarah Green. The school opened again, and this time inside a freedmen's church. The children came, quieter now, but still willing to learn. Quote, "They burned our homes and our books, but not our spirits. We taught again, we sang again, because even after fire, the ground can grow. Even after death, there can be light." End quote. Purpose of me doing this story, because after all of that sorrow and death, there can be light at the end of the tunnel.